Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to make sure you know all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on all new episodes of Wade's World, Boob Windows and Long Boxes, our Hard R movie reviews, and so much more, all completely uncensored. Access starts for as little as $1 a month, full videos when you pledge $3 a month. Check us out at the link in all of our show notes, or just go straight to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is Luca Perich, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Recording has started. Phil, you got to stop burying the lead. Topless movie reviews. Hard R, next one. The Toxic Avenger. I picked that one.
Nice.
It's the best. Hey, kids and kittens and cats and other animals, dogs, living together, whatever. Welcome to Super Connectivity. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is the blue-eyed bomber from the Burg of Pits.
Phil, me, and Perich.
Welcome, Philip. Philip from his man cave. I from my bunker. High above Newark, New Jersey. So that's how, that's the thing. I put my bunker above Newark because they would never think to look there. That's how you supervillain. Philip. So, the hotly divisive He-Man and the new Masters of the Universe. Spoilers for those who haven't seen it yet. I enjoyed. I honestly enjoyed it. I actually see exactly what Kevin Smith meant when he says it's a direct sequel to the 80s, because there are bad jokes said with earnestness. There is, a certain morality to what they're doing. There's honestly, it really does seem like, these characters kind of grew up. So it's like if you were a fan of the 80s show and you grew up with the 80s show, and then as an adult you said, well, what are my 80s show friends doing now? This seems kind of like, oh yeah, I can hear their voices and the way that they speak and the way that they do their things. But I still have my Orko issue. Kevin Smith did not and that's what bothers me, because he got the tone right, but he doesn't have the lore right. And I think you have to have the lore, especially if you're going to go with a statement that this is meant to be an evolution or even a drawing upon from the original 80s series. Because within that, you have a certain lore. You have certain facts that are both established and corroborated about Orko that they completely undo in this series. And I think, so that's the thing. It's like I'm torn. As a story, it's good. As characters, they're well established and understood. There are callbacks to the original series. There's a lot of things that really hit on all cylinders for me. But the reality is that it hits at it pulls at this one string where it shows they didn't respect what it came from. And I'm even gonna go a little bit further with this and say they had an out within the lore that they could have had the Orko story they wanted, but didn't. They could have had this Orko story that they told and had it exist within the canonical lore, and they didn't utilize it. So Orko in the original series, for those who know the original He-Man lore, know that Orko was considered like the greatest wizard of his dimension, of his planet. And it's interesting because they kind of like play fast and loose with the question of planet and dimension in this.
Mhm.
Sort of like they do with Asgard and the Nine Realms, where Midgard is one of the nine realms connected by Yggdrasil, but at the same point, it's also um, a planet within this cosmos. So exactly what Orko's home world is a little ambiguous. But here's this thing: Orko was the great wizard. Orko had a special medallion
Mhm.
that allowed him to transfer between universes. And in transferring between universes, his full magical power was always at his beck and call. When he lost that, he stopped being able to utilize his magic at the level of which he had, which is what made him the greatest sorcerer on his world and should have been the greatest sorcerer on Eternia. Now, within the, and spoilers for the new He-Man series, which I do encourage you to watch, it's actually quite good. But they create this idea that Orko was kind of a screw up on his home world too. That he went with Orko, that his name was supposed to be Oracle, but
Oh.
as a kid he called himself Orko, expressly because he was a little kid and his parents wanted great things for him, but he couldn't achieve it. And when he was kind of a failed magician on his home world, they just let the name Orko stick.
Hmm.
And you could solve this by suggesting that, yes, he wasn't good until he was able to craft the medallion. And this medallion that allowed him to communicate with magic more perfectly was what made him the great sorcerer and allowed him to be the great sorcerer in any dimension he would go to. And that idea of this magical universal translator would even fit in perfectly within the dogma that they're trying to build in this new Masters of the Universe story within the concept of technology versus magic. It's a really interesting story that he's telling. It's a really interesting way that he approaches it, and I really like the story he's telling. Or producing in this, because obviously he has other writers who are doing most of the heavy lifting on this.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I do think there are things they could have done that could have preserved the lore that they intentionally ignored. And now what I'm going to say is if this gets a season 2, they can come back and build out that lore. So Kevin Smith, this is my gift to you, one fat man to a former fat man. I give this to you. Create a lore that suggests that, yes, Orko was a failure on his homeworld, but that he had devised something that allowed him to be a great mage on his world. And that was a thing that carried with him, and that is why he had problems once he lost it. That he gathered it, that made him a great mage on his own homeworld, because it allowed him to communicate more perfectly with the forces of magic. And then that is your arc for season 2 in rebuilding the magic of eternity. You are welcome. I charge you nothing for this. I will make no claims if you use it. Although, if you happen upon to do an interview on this show, we can talk about it. Like, it's a brilliant idea that both you and I both came up with at the same time, completely independent of each other, as if we were inventing telephones. So that is my gift to you, Kevin Smith. You can fix the lore, the one hole for a true He-Man fan. that is in this. Beyond that, I want to say there is so much about the toy lore in this that I really appreciated. If you were a fan of the Toy Lord, you know that Tila is a warrior goddess. That in the original He-Man toys, she was not Man-at-Arm's daughter. She was Tila, the warrior goddess.
Mhm.
She shows up in the original comics that came with the toys, produced by Marvel Comics, if I remember correctly, although it might have been DC, I can't remember. But I always assumed Marvel because they were comic books, and I read Marvel when I was that age. They make the point that she is essentially the goddess of war for eternity, or the warrior goddess of Eternia. So there are references in this to that. The fact that He-Man's sword as a toy was two swords, one that was Skeletor's sword and one that was He-Man's sword that you would then fuse together to make the one sword of power.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that if you had the toys and played with the toys, you knew about these secrets of the toys. And those all get referenced heavily in this and are central to the story they're telling. And so just on that alone, I think that He-Man is worth that look. I know, yes, and I will say there are things that, they make a differentiation between Prince Adam and He-Man, like a physical one, which wasn't in the cartoon or in the toys. So I do understand how people might take a bit back at that, but in the story they tell, when they suggest that when He-Man goes to what is effectively the Elysian Fields, and they call it heaven and hell, but really it is much more Hades and the Elysian Fields, where he goes, they make the point, so spoilers for this series, again, that Prince Adam is the only one of the champions of Eternia to ever choose what they call his lesser form as the form to be in Preternia. Which really suggests that, again, that was because he was the one who was the true champion of Eternia, that you could give him the muscles, but he was always the good man, as they say. He was not the perfect soldier. He was the good man. So I see the story you're telling, Kevin Smith. I think it's a brilliant story. I think it's a beautiful story. Kevin Smith, you got to do right by Orko. And let me say this about Orko. Orko has an important point. And I think this is the thing people often overlook about the gag character, which is when you are dealing with a story about the hyper competent beings, they need to have a non-competent being stand next to them. First off, to show that they are hyper competent, but also to show that even if you are not the hyper competent being, you have a place to be. People that hate Orko, and I'll say this, people who hate Scrappy Doo, these are people that hate themselves. Because they are the ones that don't like who they are. They don't like that they're not the hyper competent mystery solver, superhero, He-Man of the universe. They're not the master of the universe. They are the Orko. And they don't like being the Orko, but they are the Orko. And it's okay to be Orko. It's okay to just be who you are and still be a good person who seeks to do good. And between the Men-at-Arms and Orko relationship you get here, and Cringer, and man, honestly, Cringer's arc is one of the most beautiful things in this thing. You only get snippets of it, but when he goes from being a Cringer to a hero, all without the power, it shows, and I don't think that's a spoiler because that's like in the second episode. It shows what Prince Adam's story is really meant to be. That you can be the flea man. Again, spoiler. It's sort of a spoiler. It's a gag in it. They call him the flea man
Oh.
because he chose the smaller form. And you can be the flea man, but you're still the hero because being the hero isn't just because you have the muscles. Likewise, there's a neat bit with Mossman in this. They kind of make him the Green, if you will, from DC Comics, which is neat. It's neat. You see it, you know what it is when if you know, and you see it, and you're like, oh, I see what they did there. Hi, Swamp Thing. Great to meet you.
Well, I was gonna say Kevin Smith is a fan of that Alan Moore Swamp Thing.
Yeah, well, but like less annoying.
No.
Alan Moore's whole "I was a plant who thought I was a man." It's like, okay, fine, fine if that's where you want to go with it. It doesn't really hurt me. The actual thing when they do with the Mossman is like, no, I'm just the plant, and yes, I can speak and do things, but I'm the plant and I'm eternal. I'm the Green, and that I like. That I like. That version of Swamp Thing I like a lot better. But no, I mean, and Alan Moore stuff, it's good. But Alan Moore always wants to go dark. But to be fair, it was the '90s. It was a dark time, not because of the world, because actually the world was getting brighter in the '90s because
Well,
the
it's actually
Soviet Union fell.
I think it was the 80s when he did that.
Well, the '80s were pretty good too. But yeah, it's like it was a dark time in general. This is the formative years of Gen X, and that's a weird thing for me too. That's the whole thing. But anyway,
but hey, I was going to tell you, I looked this up. The mini comics, it said the first 11 mini comics were produced by DC Comics, who later produced a 5-issue comic series. All other mini comics from 1984 and on were produced solely by Mattel.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. I did think it was DC Comics. I wanted to say it was Marvel. It might have just been, there might have been some Marvel talent that was there because they always skipped around. So there might have been some Denny O'Neil in there, and there might have been some Larry Hama in there. They didn't used to have exclusive contracts back in the day.
They said one of the artists was Bruce Timm of Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah, well that makes sense too. They were beautiful books. I'm going to tell you, like that original run of He-Man comics are actually really good. Really, and it's funny because it's like, these are people, when you talk about these comic book writers in the 80s, they were used to writing outlandish things, but they wanted to make them things they could be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you wrote a comic book for a toy, I mean, why was that different to write a comic book for a toy than writing a comic book for some, thing that could be a toy?
Oh, yeah.
To the extent that Marvel eventually at some point said, why don't we just think about, okay, we were going to make this into a toy. Let's write a comic book about things that should be toys.
I mean, I don't know about He-Man, but I'm pretty sure like Transformers and G.I. Joe, I think Marvel worked with like was that Hasbro on them. I think they even said they credit Denny O'Neil with like creating the name Optimus Prime, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing, is like because they had these toys. Yeah. It's like Rom the Space Knight.
Yeah.
See, I actually think that the biggest problem for Rom was that they didn't steer into the curve. They were so protective of Rom that they didn't try to license all the toys back. But then again, that gets into that question about licensing and whose image is what. Because Marvel just wrote you all these stories that tell you who Rom is, but they only made the one toy. They didn't think to make like 10 different Space Knights for Rom to fight with. Or even the villains. Honestly, that's the thing, is I don't think Rom as a toy had a villain until Marvel actually created a villain for him. They just created Rom, the Space Knight. Pew, pew, pew. He shoots lasers. And they were like, "Oh, what? He needs a villain. He needs like things to fight. He needs a team. Like what? He needs a mechanic. He needs a support team. What are you talking about? What
No.
is all?"
Uh-oh. Charlie. Charlie. Charlie Esser is frozen up, kids. But no, I mean, I haven't seen this series yet, but yeah, I was a big fan in the back in the day. I was, in 1984, I was the 6-year old, who bought all the toys and came home and watched the cartoon every single day. Yeah, hopefully we'll get Charlie Esser back. Okay. But yeah, I was the kid, I'm almost afraid to watch the Kevin Smith one just because, I mean, I'm willing to give it a chance, but I don't know. I'm scared for my childhood, I guess. What can we talk about? Well, while Dad is away, let's see. Where are my notes that I had before? But yeah, while we wait for Charlie Esser, something we didn't get to on Capes and Lunatics. Yeah, J.K. Simmons is going to be. Well, J.K. Simmons is in talks to play Commissioner Gordon again in the Batgirl movie. Too many TV shows and movies. But yes, J.K. Simmons, like I was telling Lilith Hellfire the other night, I think we're in the middle of a Simmons Zance, because I guess he's going to be J. Jonah Jameson again in Spider-Man, and he's Omni-Man in Invincible, and now he may be Commissioner Gordon again in the Batgirl movie, so good for J.K. Simmons. Then there's the news about Matt Ryan's going to be again on season 7 of Legends of Tomorrow, but not as Constantine. So I don't know. Again, I don't know where they're going with that, because, well, I know where they're going with that. They are, I guess HBO Max is coming out with a new Constantine series, maybe. So for some reason, they don't want him on HBO Max, the character on HBO Max, and this, I guess, the Arrowverse. So yes, Matt Ryan, the people at the CW figured out a way to keep him on, keep him on the Legends of Tomorrow, but he's going to be playing a completely different character, which, in my wildest imaginations, I never thought that Legends of Tomorrow would make it to season 7 on my view. But again, it's like, even Charlie said, he's been watching it, but I think him, Lilith, I think it's the magic starting to wear off for us. Again, I know in my case, it's like a barely recognizable as a show. I'm not a show, but like a DC show. I mean, we have, well, Steel's kind of, and Sarah's kind of a version of Black Canary. So yeah, it's just really weird. I mean, Black Lightning's already over. Supergirl's going to be ending this season. I thought Legends of Tomorrow would have been gone before those two shows. Shows what I know. So sorry if you tuned in for Marvel news and I gave you, DC news on the Batgirl movie and Matt Ryan coming back as Constantine. He'll be back, but just not as Constantine. And I know Charlie and myself are excited for Stargirl starting on, was it August 10th, I believe. Oh, good timing. There's Charlie Esser.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just been rambling to myself about. Did you see J.K. Simmons is in talks to play Commissioner Gordon again in the Batgirl movie?
Oh yes. Good for him. Good for him.
That's what I
I
said.
like Jake.
It's like a Simmons on, so, between that and J. Jonah Jameson and Omni Man, he's
Yeah.
everywhere. He's always
Well,
everywhere, but I mean, really.
you know what he is?
Hmm.
He's a good actor who doesn't say no.
Hmm.
He is like, so here's the thing. He's been on Law and Order. He has been on Oz.
Oh
He
yeah.
has been Commissioner Gordon. He has been, he was, I bet you he's on The Sopranos somewhere. He has been in just about everything that anyone ever cares about. He's done a lot of great things.
It's on
And
commercials. I know he's everywhere.
yeah, and he should be. And he's the yellow M&M. So I'm always glad. Well, to be fair, he used to be the yellow M&M. I don't think they can afford him anymore.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, he got to be bigger. Although to be fair, I think John Lovitz is still the red M&M. So that says where John Lovitz's career is right now.
But you know what? Did you see next season on your Legends of Tomorrow? Matt Ryan will be back, but not as Constantine. He's gonna be playing a brand new character. Because I think HBO Max they're doing a new Constantine series, so they're
not using Matt Ryan for it.
Well, no, I guess not. No, and I guess they don't want him to be Constantine over on Legends either. So he's gonna be back, but as like a different character.
Okay, I mean, whatever.
I never thought Legends would get to season 7 because that's what it'll be next season.
Honestly, yeah, it is. It's weird
I'm
because like Agents of Shield kept on going because it really was the only. It was the only game in town.
Yeah,
it's like you couldn't kill it because there was nowhere else to go. That Legends has survived this long. It kind of seems like almost like it's against the wishes of everyone in power, except for the fact that it just had just enough fans to keep it going.
Because I'm just like, Black Lightning's gone, Supergirl's going to be ending in a couple months here. I'm like, Legends outlasted those two. I'm like, okay.
To be fair, since Lilith isn't here, one started a black guy and one started a woman. So,
true.
And there are people that are just mad that those things exist for a reason I don't know. I don't know the reason, Phil. I don't know why people are mad that there exists a Supergirl or there exists an electronic character who is of African descent. It doesn't make sense to me in any sense of the word, but apparently that is controversial in this day and age, in this 21st century. Boggles my mind.
I know.
Boggles my mind every day that's the world we live in. And it's like, really? Because that doesn't look like the world I would choose to live in. Anyway, Philip. Yeah, so thanks for filling the gap.
You want to talk some comics?
Yeah, let's talk some comics because I got cut off on my big ROM Space Knight thing, and that was Mattel's failing. Okay, hey, you want to talk Spider-Man first? I don't have the physical copy in front of me, but we can talk it because I'm sure you do. Mm-hmm. Harry Osborn's in a cell, but they're also saying Harry Osborn is the dude, the
Kindred. Yeah, I don't know if it's a red herring or if he's been split or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, unless they're going to do that whole, oh no, all the clones have a soul and all the clones go in hell. And then that's where we get our big, yes, that was my plan all along. And Bentley makes his move to seize the throne of hell. That's how the big Mephisto crossover ends.
Or like
Bentley makes his move.
Or like I was telling Lilith last night, it's like, what if Harry Osborn died in Spectacular Spider-Man 200? Maybe that's Kindred. Maybe the other Harry Osborn, I don't know, maybe Norman, being the evil SOB that he is, tried to clone Harry and was like, oh, let me let me create a brand new son who will be more obedient and, or not such a screw up. And because, Norman's kind of like that. And please tell me I didn't lose you again. Come back. But yes, so we see if we get Charlie back. Yeah, Kindred is. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 71. Yeah, it looks like because we all saw Mysterio died in the Kevin Smith run of Daredevil, and I guess it was Kindred who brought him back eventually, and it's been, kind of been like, oh, you're my boy for years now, and like I said, I have my theories. Maybe Kindred is Harry, like they're trying to paint the picture. Maybe he's the real Harry, or Harry got split in two, or yeah, my big theories on Kindred are it's either Harry or they've supposedly Ned Leeds is back, if it's the real Ned Leeds. So maybe it's Harry, maybe it's Ned Leeds, because if Ned Leeds came back, he would have a big grudge against everybody. All right, do we have Charlie Esser?
So I'm back from outer space. Sorry, just had to check on how Francis Crum was doing. Yeah, so I mean, maybe that's it. It's like, yeah, the first one that dies goes to heck, and then all the ones that come after that are clones sort of are in their own way kind of impinging on their existence.
Mm-hmm.
Which would explain why he's so mad, because he's dead, but no one's mourning him. And he died, but then everyone just got over him because they got a new Harry Osborn. And that's an interesting theory. Is like, oh no, if they really explore this idea that clones have souls, but that first soul isn't connected to that second soul, which is again why I say like the Bentley Whitman clone empire could be a real interesting story to explore. Because if this guy's just been mass producing himself, and alongside Otto Octavius's, let's be real here, Otto clearly had like a dozen of these things all ready to go. If nothing else, here's what I'll say: I will guarantee you, Mephisto's bringing back of Otto was his attempt to circumvent the Otto attack that he was anticipating. So really, that actually plays into everything. So you have Mephisto tricking Otto back to being Otto.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be releasing Otto 1.0 with a quick memory wipe, with a good place memory wipe, to be back to his original self, and with only vague memories of what has happened since. And that's his way to derail the coming Otto incursion, but the Whitman incursion he's not even paying attention to because he's too B tier. And that I think would be brilliant, that if when we get this big Mephisto War crossover, which I think is going to be part of Inferno, which means I have to read mutant books.
I mean, I don't know. They might just be using the name because they've been using 90s names and things, but they don't have like no similarity. So I think it's just, I think someone's burning Krakoa to the ground. So I think that's why they're using the name.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm telling you, man, Krakoa is going to be real mad that they got left behind.
Because it's like they're already like the main X-Men book, like they're already setting up Cyclops' team to be like a regular superhero team again. So it's like, I think Lilith even said she's heard rumblings like, yeah, that Krakoa thing's not lasting too much longer. So
no, because you have to get it back to some semblance of normalcy.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what they kind of actually highlighted in it is the idea that, okay, mutants, there's a subset of humans who are just naturally born mutants, but there are such a small subset that they never actually really could get their foothold in the natural order of things. And because they were distrusted, they kept on getting hunted, and they weren't doing themselves any favors. It's like when you could be born magical, it was kind of a cool thing when it was the one kid in the one village. But, when all of a sudden it became a whole civil rights movement, then it got really complex. So, yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I think, like, in the old man universes, it's like, yeah, mutants still exist, but they never became the dominant species, of which we touch upon in this week's Shang-Chi.
Oh.
Because we find out that there is, and it's interesting because it tells you how much of a manufactured place this is. I don't think this is real. There's a place called Muckross Lake. Not even Muckross Loch. Muckross Lake in Scotland, which has its little... actually, I don't even know if they actually even say it's Scotland. No, it's in Ireland. I'm sorry. It's in Killarney National Park, Ireland. So maybe Muckross Lake is a real thing. Maybe the Muckross monster is real. Who has a flute that she can use to create solid energy, to entrap things, because the Muckross monster is real, man. It's real! Turns out that the Muckross witch is actually another sister, another daughter of the guy who's not Fu Manchu.
And it's not the Mandarin?
No one cares about the Mandarin in the comics. The Mandarin's gonna be a thing in the movies, granted, but the comics have actually a completely separate thing with Fu Manchu.
So it's still
that they're working through.
They're just not saying Fu Manchu.
Yeah, well, so Fu Manchu, the Yellow Claw, and the Mandarin are probably all going to get merged in the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to find out that Jimmy Chu is actually also one of the Mandarin's sons. So, and Jimmy Chu is in the Shang-Chi movie. So, don't be shocked. But we see Wolverine shows up as the ambassador of Krakoa to tell the Muckross witch that she is a mutant. She was actually exiled from the 5 houses of Fu Manchu expressly because she wanted to institute reforms in the same way that Shang-Chi is. And, like, it's this problem that, like, everyone in the 5 houses, they accept that Shang-Chi is the leader now, but he is talking like everything that would get you exiled from the 5 houses before. So they're very confused. And it's interesting how it plays out. Because we even see that after he welcomes in the lost sister, who again, Brother Saber was sent to kill and didn't. And we see that he has a habit with this, where he's sent to kill people and he kind of like, decides not to.
Uh-huh.
He chooses not to, and then he feels bad about it. But she gets approached by someone who doesn't seem to be the same person who's been approaching other people, but I don't know yet. And that's a weird thing with comics that I want to get to when we get to Captain America, because sometimes we're given one image and then the next issue they give us a different one. And it's like, did they change plans midstream, or what are we looking at here? What exactly are we supposed to be seeing? Do you want to talk Captain America real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Captain America, this is the United States of Captain America 2, which is the Captain America book right now, right? Because Ta-Nehisi Coates finished his run.
Yeah, they haven't started another one yet, so I
The
wonder.
new run doesn't start again until after this one.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because I haven't heard
Yeah, and it's neat. It's cool. We get a new water rights activist, Captain America, who is cool. Now this is what bugged me because I was actually a little confused reading it. We get, and I kind of feel like they gave too much away in this issue as to our villains.
Okay.
We see that the assassin is actually Sin, and the villain is called Speed Demon,
Yes.
but they also called them James.
Yes.
That's not James Byrne, right?
No, it's no. Yeah, he's
No.
been around for a long time. No, he was. I mean, he's been a Spider-Man villain for the longest time.
Yeah.
Originally, he was the Wizard of the Squadron Sinister.
Oh, okay.
And then I think in the '80s, he took the name and costume of Speed Demon. Yeah.
Okay. So he is the wizard. Okay, that makes sense.
The evil one, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that was the thing. Is like when I first, because at first I'm thinking, oh wait, are they doing something with the wizard now? Like, and to be fair, yes, Superior was the end of Ta-Nehisi's run, so setting up Superior makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of felt there should have been something a little more clear with regard to, motivations here. Like that it's just another Red Skull plot is, I don't know, it just feels less to me because of it.
I mean, there could be more to the plan. I mean, they don't do the big reveal to like the last page or two. So
I know, but just the fact that it's, like I said, I was really hoping it was going to be something more personal, like a William Burnside bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that it wasn't that. It's a little disappointing that it's not anything even trying to be that. It's actually trying to be just basically second-tier villains trying to make a name for themselves fighting Captain America. Trying to discredit the image of Captain America again. Because that has worked so well, so often in the past.
I mean, unless they say it's personal for Sin, that she like blamed Steve for her father's mind being stuck in that Russian's body.
Well, I guess so, but it's also like I don't know. It just seems like to me the revelation of Sin in this, especially going from the Mother Superior that we just saw, who was kind of a magical villain, to this one, which is more of our classic Cynthia Red Skull shooter. She's got her little red, white, and blue mask on. An interesting mask because it is a Union version of the Watchdogs masks that they introduced in the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. Ta-Nehisi Coates introduced the masks that were meant to imply the stars and bars, whereas this one very much is meant to be Old Glory, as we say, but again, in that bad way, which is why I really felt that the leaving of William Burnside on the table really it shows a weakness to the story. And to be fair, I don't think that this Speed Demon Speedster Wizard character was who we saw the first issue. So it's like, okay, now we're seeing him. He's basically doing the whole reverse Flash, I'm fast and I make a lot of quips thing, which is fair. But at the same time, it's also like, but is that who we saw previously?
Yeah.
So maybe we will get a William Burnside. Maybe we'll get that there's more than one evil Cap they're working with.
Yeah, because like I said, it's really weird. That came out of nowhere for me because like he's not a Captain America villain. He's, like I said, he's basically a Spider-Man villain, and it's
And you know what it is? Is like, to me, it's like I kind of thought, oh, it would be neat if they're going to do something with like the All Winter Squad and the other heroes from the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sort of like, oh, this is the kid of the wizard. This is, although the wizard did have a kid named Knucklo, but this is someone else that is like trying to reclaim the mantle of other heroes,
Mm-hmm.
by discrediting this hero or something along those lines. So now, of course, it makes sense that it is the Red Skull, and I like that they are definitely building on Tanahashi's run,
Mm-hmm.
and really embracing, saying, no, nothing Tanahashi said was wrong, and we are keeping the same tone and understanding as we build out. And it is just one more way to really say to the haters, you know what, haters, we don't care. No one cares what haters say, because haters going to hate and players going to play. So let's just play and tell our stories. And, but it seemed like a real gear shift to me.
Mm-hmm.
This issue from the last issue. Now, maybe the third issue will be a third gear shift. Next, we go to the Native American Captain America, which is interesting and cool. And then we get the Captain America of Soldiers, which I think is an interesting choice to make, because obviously the Captain America of Soldiers is Captain America because he was a soldier. And Captain America of Soldiers could also be Jen Walker, who was a soldier, and several other Captain America. Yeah, ironically, the only Captain America who wasn't a soldier was probably William Burnside. So it's like leaving William Burnside on the table feels weird to me and unnatural for this story. So I really feel the second issue is a step down. Villain wise, I mean, story wise, it's great. Honestly, I was in tears at the end with the activist Captain America, and we support you. Even like they even had the white rich kid who says, "My dad owns a bunch of houses. I can set you up with all kinds of safe houses. I'm going to use my white privilege wealth for a good cause. Rich man's got to get into heaven somehow," as I always say. And I like that. And it brought me to tears just reading that little filler bit in the back. But, I felt that as villains go, this was a step down. None of the villains felt as powerful in their unmasking. Is Bendis writing this story?
No, this is actually Christopher Cantwell, who's writing Iron Man right now.
No, I know. It was meant as a joke because, I'm used to Bendis' twists being very anticlimactic. It's like, it was a person you never heard of. Ha ha! Didn't see that coming because you literally could not have.
Like I said, the Speed Demon thing is weird, but at least these are characters we've heard of before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like in the sense that they exist.
Yes.
It's like, I did not even know that he was a Squadron Senator wizard before this. So, literally, for all I know, he just took a bunch of crank. So, because he seemed like, and what was weird was she calls him James, and he starts reciting like, this weird title for her, which made me think there was some kind of weird mind control thing going on.
I mean, I guess it could be, but again, he's like evil anyway, so he probably, he wouldn't mind doing this. Yeah.
Anyway, moving right along, want to talk Black Cat real quick. This is not the annual, right?
No, this is. Oh wait, no.
No, we already got the annual.
Yeah, this is issue 8. Yeah.
And this is interesting because she's stealing something from New Nick Fury.
Yeah, this is just tying into that Infinity Destiny stuff.
Because the person she pulls out of the box.
Star.
So spoilers. Yeah, that's Star. Yeah. So it kind of gives the impression that, as you've been seeing in the annuals, that Fury did get brainwashed by Nighthawk,
Mm-hmm.
and they even like, man, I mean, who these guys are, we don't know, because they even made the point that the Wizard had no belly button.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Um. So, but I also get the feeling, and that's the thing. This issue, it is, to pardon the pun, a great game of cat and mouse. And there's this whole thing about being beaten by the best. My favorite Simpsons line, by the way, where, no shame in being beaten by the best.
Yeah, because I was trying to remember, because Star showed up in the Amazing Spider-Man annual, and she got away. I'm like, did she get captured? No, she got away from Spider-Man. But even on the last page, it even says, "Oh, we'll see Star later in Black Cat #8," which is what this is.
Yeah, but what it implies is that basically, Nick Fury and Nighthawk have been capturing these beings, hunting and capturing to control, so that of course, Nightwing can
Nighthawk.
utilize the Infinity Stone power to recreate his perfect universe,
Mm-hmm.
where America is all powerful, which is an interesting sentiment for him to choose.
But it's like, how does he remember?
He's the one that does. No, all of the LMDs remember, but he's the only one that actually cares.
No.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, all the LMDs came out of it with something, but they're all also in a weird spot with it.
I wonder if they use that too, because I mean, all of reality was like warped. I wonder if like those LMDs are like real boys now.
Yeah, real non-belly button having boys. They are all Atom, which is what I was waiting for with this.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for her to open that and it be like her or something like that. That it's Star, because again, we didn't even see Star get captured.
Nope.
Though we did see, and this I guess is maybe the point we're supposed to take away from that. Star doesn't have good control over powers.
Mm-hmm.
So that it would be easy to get a drop on her. If you understood her powers, understood what you were doing, you would get the drop on her. And I think that was the point of it. Do you want to give a book before I give my last book, which is FF?
Let me see what I got. Oh yeah. Haven't mentioned it a lot, but I found this one interesting. Eternals #6.
Oh, Eternals! They've got a movie coming out.
Yeah, I mean, here they're fighting Thanos, because MCU.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there was a big reveal at the end of this, was really interesting because they have one of those magic machines too that like resurrect them if they die and stuff.
Yeah, well, you need those. Those come in real handy.
But I wonder if they probably won't do this in the movie, but like the big revelation at the end of this one was when the machine resurrects an Eternal,
Mm-hmm.
it like kills a human being somewhere in the world.
Oh, well, that's not good.
No. That's like
that is like even like that's not even as good as freaking the Leader's machine.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if like that wipes their minds every time, but yeah, like most of them didn't even remember, they even know this. So again, I don't know if they like lose their memory of that when they get resurrected, but
that's effed up, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. In the beginning, Icarus was having like these visions of this young boy, and he was like standing around thinking because he knew something was going to happen to him, and he was like, "Oh, I'll protect you, I'll protect you." And then in this issue, Icarus dies when he gets resurrected. The kid dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's how that goes. Yeah. There's so many things you can do in comic books.
No.
It gets crazy. What I will say is that's weird and interesting, and I like it. I hope they don't do it in the movie, though.
Yeah, that would be kind of dark.
My biggest hope in the movie is that we're going to get, because I realized this recently, is that, you know what, if they have Rama Tut
mm-hmm.
in the Eternals film, they actually solve the white guy goes the white alien created technology problem. If they have Jonathan Major be Rama Tut, optically it looks better that
No.
he's the one bringing this magic technology to the ancient world. Although it would be interesting because there is this idea that they're going into that whole aliens built all the great things of mankind mythos. Oh, I think it would be interesting to see that. Actually, no, they didn't. They have just been observing, and they like talk to humans on occasion, but that they were always like above it.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they saved some people's lives here and there, and they fought off some basic alien invasions here and there, but that they weren't the ones who built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. That was just humans being crazy humans. Like, humans, you make these crazy little hanging gardens. That's neat. I mean, Gilgamesh going on and being king of Mesopotamia, it's neat. But then again, he's just a guy being king. He's super strong, but that's about it. That's his whole story. So, but it would be neat if they do run into Rama Tut and maybe even run into Rama Tut and say, you're not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
We know you're a time traveler. We know you're not supposed to be here, Rama Tut. Why don't you go do something else? And then it would be interesting if that is the thing, them kicking Rama Tut out. So if we get Jonathan Major in Eternals, that would be awesome. And them kicking him out. And maybe having something to do with Apocalypse, that would be great. So I'm really excited to see Apocalypse and Rama Tut in Eternals. I will be disappointed, I'm sure. But anyway. FF. Yes, Eternals. That's yeah, so I don't know, man. They are really doubling down on Doom is it not a nice person thing here? Which I knew that college dropout who was constantly, honestly, he is. The fact that his fiance slept with someone else is totally clear.
And I mean, he kind of plays it off that it was like a ceremonial thing. The marriage was just gonna,
Yeah, no.
Is he just saying that?
No, his heart's breaking. He's like, why doesn't anybody love me?
Because you're petty.
Because he's a stupid petty bastich, as Lobo would say.
And then the punishment. I mean, does he give like Johnny Storm the ultimate like STD? I mean,
no, he recreated what happened to Johnny Storm in Inferno.
Oh yeah,
it's like, you can't turn your fire off, and Reed's like, yeah, we'll fix that again. Don't worry, dude.
I know that's weird. So if Reed can't fix that this time, that's going to seem weird because he did fix that after Inferno.
Exactly, and it's kind of like it's literally kind of like no, I know. It's like, and that's the thing about like for me, as I do think they are going into that. Yeah, your powers are psychologically controlled. Reed knows that, but it's like the kind of thing he can't tell you because if he told you, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It's like if we actually ripped the Band-Aid off, it would be much more problematic than leaving the Band-Aid on. And we've got to kind of sort of trick you into understanding because honestly, if we actually tried to psychologically break you to understand true understanding of your power, who knows where that'll go? You might become an evil demigod consumed by your own ego, or you might implode. And I would rather that we just have you around and we just can find a workaround, a psychological workaround.
I just wonder if Slott is gonna play this like, now Johnny's gonna understand Ben better, the guy who can't turn off his powers and stuff. And
Except it's not the first time it happened.
I know.
And Ben has turned off his powers 100 times.
I know. Well, that's the other thing too. In Inferno, who amped Johnny's powers? Wasn't it Kang?
Was it Kang?
They were doing something with Kang in one of those issues.
In Inferno, I just thought it was a demon thing.
There might have been both, but
demons and magic fire stuff. But
I think there were demons, but I'm pretty sure there was something with Kang too, because I think he double crossed him. He was after Mantis, remember?
Yeah, there's always a lot going on, but yeah.
Because here we're getting in the 60th anniversary issue next issue, Kang.
Yeah, well, it is great granddad. He's got to go visit great granddads.
Yes, and he's between the Loki series and he's coming up in the MCU soon. Yeah, we got a Kang out there.
Yeah, we gotta get as much Kang in there as we can. Kangs are delightful.
Kang it up.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, the abusive relationship that freaking and again, so here's what I'm going to say. There's definitely a psychological stuff going on in here. You have all the psychological stuff with Franklin Richards going on.
Yeah.
And you have just this reality that I think it's going to be this situation where, and you have in this psychological issue that, I've made it so that you guys can't attack me. But as soon as Ben finds a loophole, as soon as any of them find loopholes, then suddenly they can find ways to restructure the whole conversation. Because it's just something that's a mental block.
Well, it's doomed too. You're going to find loopholes.
Well, but the idea is that if you can find that if it's a mental block, all you need to do is find the out.
Mm-hmm.
Which is essentially what they did with Ben can turn human one day a year. Because, it's a mental block. If we just told him he can turn human and back, he'll always destroy it. Because he's afraid of what he'll become if he and his superpowered self dissociate. And it does not... it's not without... importance to point out that at this time, Johnny Storm is going through his own psychological nonsense with his soulmate leaving and the manipulations of
Elijah.
No, not Elijah. What's her name? Alicia Grimm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly things are going to be a little bit different for everyone. And again, doubling down on that, everything is psychological construction of the story. So I'm interested to see where it goes. We got 600 coming. It's interesting that we had a bunch of different iterations of the FF, including the one when Ben felt his face was so messed up he had to wear a mask. So it's an interesting choice to make. And I'm excited to see where we go.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can definitely see they're working into that. And I do think they're going to do the thing where Reed knew all along, but he couldn't tell anyone because it wouldn't help. And everyone thinks, well, if you had told me, I would have been able to deal with it. It's like, well, you couldn't deal with it on your own. So would me telling it to you really help you deal with it or send you into a spiral? And that's the question I have to deal with every day, is the one guy in comic books who knows what's going on. Reed Richards has a real burden to bear. I get the feeling at some point he's actually going to say, no, I'm well aware of the fourth wall, and yes, I see them there. It just doesn't advance anything that I know that. Knowing that is not helpful to my situation, Mr. Deadpool. Whatever it is you are discussing, yes, I understand it. Trust me, there's nothing you've conceived that I am not 1,000% aware of, because I'm Reed Richards and I have superpowers too. So, yes, but at this moment, we're dealing with the world as we have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my view. I like Reed Richards. He's cool. He is my Sherlock Holmes. All right, Philip, we've gone on way too long, I'm sure. Of course, the fact that you had to vamp for so long probably didn't help. But Phil can vamp.
That's right.
That's right. He's cool. All right. So, Philip, if people would like to reach out to you, how can they find you?
If you want to get a hold of me or anyone else on the Capes and Lunatics team, I can always email capesandlunatics@gmail.com or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And find links to all of our social media, the YouTube channel, the Patreon, the merch, everything at Linktree, linktr.ee/capesandlunatics.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email, whether we're the mothers and fathers want to sit at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as a live tweet Stargirl that's coming back. Why not? At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Maz. Maz Manzoor, the next Doctor Who. Mark my words. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have come to another episode of Super Connectivity. We have connected many things, hopefully superbly. I do ask that you come again next week and once again super connect with us. I already used the word again, so I can't say that. But anyway, that's that. So get out of here. Thanks for listening.
The show's over. It's like that Deadpool.
Go home. Go home. I need my white bathrobe like Tracy Ullman. Coming out at the end saying, why are you all still here? Tracy Ullman. She is an international treasure.